Are you ready, Exiles, to Spin2win like you did in Legion League, as Legion tier Cyclone is back? Well, everything except the AoE part of it. But now, with the new melee buffs, our two-handed version features over 35 million damage, 8000 life, and max spell suppression. We also have no mana cost, allowing us to spin forever. This guy makes short work of any uber boss, and it's easy to play thanks to Cyclone's inherent ability to deal damage while moving. Alright, what are we waiting for? Let's get started with our Ascendancy. We are good old Slayer, simply because Slayer is ideal for our weapon of choice. First we take Impact. This node grants us lots of accuracy, more melee damage to nearby enemies up to 15%, and lots of area of effect. This node just screams Cyclone. Anyway, next we have Brutal Fervor. This node causes any leech effect on you to persist even after reaching maximum life, turning your leech into makeshift life regen. You also gain 10% global damage reduction while leeching, which is like all the time. From here we take Overwhelm. This node hard sets the base critical strike chance of our main weapon to 8%. It goes without saying, the less base crit chance on your weapon, the more useful this node becomes. This is powerful considering that our final weapon upgrade for this build is one with the minimum base crit of 5%. This node also lowers nearby enemies crit multiplier by 30%, which is useful in crit heavy maps. Last but not least, we have Bane of Legends. This node grants us lots of damage against unique enemies. It also renders us immune to reflected physical damage, allowing us to blast through maps without reading their mods. Just make sure to avoid ones with no leech on them. But with that, we are done with our Ascendancy. Now let's take a look at our passive tree. Our tree focuses on melee damage, Impale chance and effect, damage with two-handed weapons, sword crit chance and crit multi, life, spell suppression, and melee strike range. Next we have one large cluster jewel setup. This one adds the following notables: Fuel the Fight and Sure-Footed Striker. Next, for mastery choices, we have increased critical strike chance with swords at the cost of crit multi, 10% more maximum physical damage, plus 25% to critical strike multiplier against unique enemies, 40% increased damage against unique enemies, 10% chance on hitting an enemy for all impales on them to last one additional hit, 3% chance to deal triple damage, 0.3 meters to melee strike range, 0.3 meters to melee strike range with swords, 8% chance to gain a frenzy charge on hitting a unique enemy, and chance to suppress spell damage is lucky. But with that, we are done with our passive tree and its masteries. Now let's go over our items. First we have the recently buffed Kaum's Heart, now with its 1000 life roll. This thing is easily an insta-pick in any two-handed build. The simple fact that you can have more damage somewhere else to compensate for the lack of damage here makes this item best in slot. Next we have a Starforge as our two-handed sword. This thing drops from Uber Shaper and has damage equivalent of some mirror tier swords. Its only problem is that its terrible base crit chance, which is fixed by our Ascendancy, making it best in slot. The weapon also comes with a decent life roll and the ability to make physical damage shock, making enemies take even more damage. Now for our gloves, we have a pair of gloves with elevated chance to impale and elevated culling strike, because we aren't using the culling Ascendancy. That alongside life, attack speed, and resistances. For our helm, we got a warlord influenced helm that has crit multi, resistances, and lots of life. Just make sure to craft additional melee strike range prefix wherever possible, as Cyclone gains increased area of effect from it. Our next item is a rare amulet with Pride has increased mana reservation efficiency. This is mandatory for our specific aura setup. You should try to get this mod alongside life and as many crit modifiers as possible. But most importantly, you need an empty prefix to craft channeling skills have -3 to total mana cost. Having this crafted here and on both of our rings alongside the mana cost reduction on our passive tree will completely remove Cyclone mana cost. Just make sure to anoint your amulet with Disemboweling for that massive boost to melee crit chance and crit multi. But now moving on to our rings, we have a rare one with life, flat physical damage, crit multi, resistances, and crafted -3 mana cost to channeling skills. This ring is so good that we decided to replicate it with Calandra's Touch, as doing that will always be cheaper than crafting a second ring. Anyway, for our belt, we got a Stygian Vice that has resistances, increased attack speed during any flask effect, increased physical damage, and lots of life. It should be noted that having damage mods on your belt is optional, as you can always drop them to save currency, just as with any other item you see in this build. Anyway, last but not least, we have a rare pair of boots with elevated onslaught and elevated tailwind. Aside from these, we got elusive, life, and tier 1 movement speed. These are some of the fastest boots you can craft in Path of Exile, and while movement speed is always considered a luxury, it's especially important when playing a slow build like Cyclone. It's either this or you get Mage Blood. But with that, we are done with our items. Now let's go over gems that goes inside of them. For our main 6-link Cyclone setup, we have Cyclone, Awaken Melee Physical Damage, Awaken Brutality, Impale, Close Combat Support, and Pulverize. Next, for our main aura setup, we have Pride, Herald of Purity, level 21 Precision, and level 3 Enlighten. Our auras continue in a second 4-link setup. We got Blood and Sand, Flesh and Stone, War Banner, and the Portal Gem. Last but not least, we have a 4-link damage support setup. It contains Assassin's Mark, Mark on Hit, Enhance, and Life Tap. But with that, we are done with our gems. Now let's talk about our jewels. For our Watcher's Eye, we got 12% chance to deal double damage while affected by Pride, and Impales we inflict lasts 2 additional hit while also affected by Pride. The first mod is optional while the second one is mandatory. Next, we have one lethal Pride timeless jewel that mentions any general. Place this one in this socket to maximize its effect. This jewel adds various bonuses to nearby notables. We are looking for a chance to deal double damage and additional melee crit multiplier. You might also get increased melee damage and fire resistance. Any remaining jewel socket you have left should be filled with a normal rare jewel like this one. Ideally, you are looking for life, melee crit multi with two-handed weapons, and increased attack speed. And that was it for our jewels. Now for Bandit's quest, we are going to help Alira. As for Pantheons, we got the Soul of the Brine King and the Soul of Ralakesh. And with that, we are done with our best Cyclone build on this channel. If you guys have enjoyed this video, then feel free to leave a like and maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future build guide like this one. My name is Phoenix and I will see you all in the next video.
What's this? A real challenge? You finally caught my attention. They became reliant on me. I'm not so foolish.
Watch guilty crumble.
To warrant all this pain.